recovery potentially as well. We're going to have an intake in corporate recovery, corporate finance recovery in our Limerick office. And again, in the Limerick office, you'd have audit and tax and the other departments as well. So between Limerick and Dublin, we're going to be recruiting heavily now over the next week or so. Yes, definitely.
Well, that's brilliant. And can I ask you, so you've mentioned, say, 20 roles in audit and maybe 7 to 9 in tax.
Yeah.
How many CVs or applications would you usually get, would you say?
So at the moment, I think we had a look at it yesterday, and I think we had nearly hitting 500 so far. Now that would be across all the disciplines, all the areas that people have applied to. So yeah, it would be quite competitive in terms of the number of applications that we receive in.
Okay. And now I know students always have a few different questions around the different areas. So for audit, would you prefer people to do the ACA or the ACCA, or do you care?
We don't mind. We're very flexible. We actually do have partners who are ACA trained, and we have partners who are ACCA trained. So we actually have kind of a mixture. I would say a majority of trainees tend to go down the Chartered Accountants Ireland route, so ACA. But in recent years, there has been kind of more people going for ACCA. It's very flexible. There's 4 exam sittings in the year. There's a lot of exemptions there with ACCA as well. So we're completely open to having that conversation with, I suppose, trainees and understanding what route they'd like to take. So 100% flexible there.
Okay, brilliant. And you mentioned exemptions there. So say our accountancy students do get exemptions from both the ACA and the ACCA, but the business students don't have exemptions.
Yeah.
Is that an issue, or can you take them without exemptions?
No, that's not an issue. So we would have a large number who would join us. So we have our November intake now joining us in the next couple of weeks. And we would have quite a few who'd be starting off on Cap 1. So from the very beginning, and that's absolutely fine.
Okay, brilliant. And say for audit, this is my last question, I think, around audit. If people go in with you, do they specialise in a certain sector? So maybe they might only, I suppose, audit retail companies or financial services companies, or do they go across all the sectors?
So team 1 would have more of a specialisation in financial services, but our other teams, so team 2, team 3 and team 4 would be quite varied. They'd have a number of different clients, a number of different sectors, from different kind of, hospitality sector, manufacturing sector, pharma sector, IT. It's across the board. So again, that is something that I suppose is a benefit to us and a benefit to the trainee when they come in, that they do get that broad exposure to a variety of different clients and sectors. And like that, we would have conversations with trainees kind of, or graduates, when they're in that interview stage with us, do you have any kind of inkling as to where you'd like to go? And if there is someone that mentions, I have, a strong interest in financial services, that's where I want to go, then obviously we have the opportunities there in team 1. And potentially if they were to mention to us, I'm not 100% sure, I'd like my training contract to be quite varied and get a feel for all the different sectors, then we know then that, they might be more suited to being allocated to team 2, 3 or 4.
Brilliant. And say you mentioned clients there. So what kind of clients do you deal with?
So there's a huge amount of clients. I know I can't remember, I was looking for hampers or something for potentially to send out as gifts, and I just said, I wonder, do we have any clients around that and potentially get a corporate discount? So, I mean, the Excel sheet that I got sent over, even just to go through the different clients, I didn't even realize we had that many. So, I mean, it's right down to your small manufacturing, homegrown Irish businesses down the country, right up to the large, SMEs, that would be kind of, big pharmaceutical plants as well. So it's right across the board.
Brilliant. And can I ask you then some questions about the tax? Because I know most of my students now, and if I'm wrong, guys, put it in the chat and I'll ask about the other areas. But I know tax is always something that they're really interested in.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about how the tax department works?
Yeah, so within tax, so you'd have a number of kind of different areas again in tax. So you'd have corporation tax, income tax, employment tax, global mobility. So again, because our departments are quite small, it's the same thing as audit. So our tax trainees would get a very large variety of work. So no one day would be the same, and they wouldn't kind of go into a niche area of tax. So if you were kind of, again, not sure in terms of, you want to go into tax, but you're not sure exactly what area potentially to specialize in or that you might like, and you'd like to kind of be able to try your hand at all different areas, then tax department in BDO could be a good place for you to start, because it would be very varied again, and you'd be asked to kind of get involved in all different areas.
Yeah, oh, brilliant. And again, then a question about the qualification. Do you like people to come in and do the chartered and then do the tax exams, or the ACA and then the tax, or do you prefer them just to do the tax exams?
So we do offer the dual contract in the tax department. So that is a contract, it's a 4-year contract to complete tax and your accountancy qualification. We would stipulate that you start your tax exams first. Obviously, you're working in the tax department. We want you to kind of get those exams started first and learn about, the taxes in the jurisdiction. But yeah, so we would have a number that would actually do the dual contract, especially if there's exemptions there. If you have Cap 1 exemptions and potentially exemptions in tax, then, why not kind of utilize those exemptions and potentially get through both set of exams to come out the other end as a chartered tax advisor and a chartered accountant at the end of a training contract, which would be great.
Yeah. And say if students aren't 100% sure, do they want audit or tax? Can they tick both boxes, or how does that work?
Yeah, so on our application form, we have 2 preferences. So you give your first preference and your second preference. So I would say kind of if you're leaning more so towards one department, potentially put that as your first preference. But of course, put down 2 options there of audit and tax, and we will note that then when we're reviewing.
Okay, brilliant. And will you accept applications from students on a stamp, who need the stamp 1A visa to qualify?
Yeah, we do. So I suppose that would be on the basis that they would pursue the accountancy exams. So either your chartered or your ACCA, and that would be then the stamp 1A visa. And I think that's the 4-year visa. So yeah, we'd have a number of trainees who would go down that route.
Oh, brilliant. I might move on then to ask you some recruitment questions.
Yeah.
But Karina, can you think of anything I've missed there before I move on to asking all about the recruitment process?
Hi, Nicola.
Hi.
I just have a quick question. You've mentioned that you would take international students, those who would like to acquire stamp 1A. I'm just wondering, does that apply to advisory services?
So within our advisory services, so RAS, corporate finance, transaction services, corporate recovery, they would also be the training contracts, and we would ask that the people who join those departments would also go forward for the accountancy exams, just to get, I suppose, your broad kind of understanding of accountancy and to actually pursue that qualification. Someone apply to those areas, they would also be able to go for the stamp 1A because they would need to go forward for pursuing the accountancy exams. The only area that we wouldn't, I suppose, need it would be RAS. Potentially there is an opportunity for kind of cyber security. I don't know if I have anyone here IT focused on the call, but they would be potentially interested at looking at someone from a cyber security background. So the stamp 1A obviously wouldn't be applicable there.
Okay. God, we do have cybersecurity students, so I might say that to Dale because he'll be very interested.
Can I just quickly clarify, Nicola, about the fact that you've said that students can do advisory and the ACA or ACA qualification? Does that, primarily the question would be, how is that going to be reflected in their day-to-day work?
Yeah, so I suppose now I can't speak for the departments, but we do have currently trainees in those departments who are pursuing those qualifications and who have qualified and move up the ladder. So the competencies required by Chartered Accountants Ireland and required by ACCA are hit by the day-to-day work, and the partners are very, involved in training and ensuring that they hit the competencies they need to get their practical experience for their membership.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks, Karina. So can I ask you then, Nicola, say about the recruitment process? What's included? What's involved in it?
Okay, so it's quite a short process, I think, anyway. So it starts off with your online application form. We do ask that you upload your CV alongside your application form. There's a couple of freehand text boxes on our application form that I would ask to make sure that you fill it out the best that you can. Give us a little bit more detail. We want to this year be able to kind of find out a little bit more about people who are applying. So we have an emphasis, I suppose, in BDO on our D&I, so our diversity and inclusion. We have quite a big campaign running in BDO around that. And one of the things that we want to see this year on the application forms is interest in hobbies. So what actually makes you you, and kind of show us how you would stand out from the crowd. So different things that you're interested in, different interests, different hobbies, things that set you apart. That's what we really want to see on the application forms. So moving on then from the application form, once you're successful at that stage and you move forward, next stage is actually video interview. Now, a little bit around the video interview, it's a one-way video interview. So you're actually recording yourself speaking. So what would happen is you would log in. Now you do a practice round, so it'll take you through, a practice question where you can record yourself and watch it back. So things to be mindful of is make sure you can be seen, you can be heard. If you have headphones, make sure that you can be heard as well. So do the practice round and watch it back. And once you're comfortable, then go forward into actually recording the interview. So the question will pop up on the screen. We haven't confirmed the questions just yet, Caroline, but they're not going to be anything crazy to catch anyone out. It's really just to get a feel for you as a person, your communication style, how you come across. So again, just be yourself. That's the one thing that I can say about the video interview, is just to be yourself and answer within kind of the time that's given, and make sure then to press stop and move on to the next question. So we'll receive in those video interviews, then we'll watch them. And then if we feel as though potentially you're suitable and that you might be a good fit for BDO, and we'd like to kind of progress you forward to interview, you'd go forward then to the partner interview. So if you've mentioned that you have a preference for audit, we interview with the audit partner and a member from their team, and it's looking likely it'll be virtual, so an MS Teams call then for that interview. And then just before that interview takes place, we would send out kind of just your psychometric assessment form as well. So that would send out as well. They're pretty standard, I think, across the board now. So that would get sent out and need to be completed prior to the interview. And that would be it then. Following the partner interviews, they'd make their decision then based on all the interviews that they've completed. And we'd be going out with offers then, I think, kind of mid-November after the interviews.
Okay. Can I ask you a few questions on that?
Yeah.
So say everybody who applies, does everyone get invited to the video interview or no?
No. So we would screen the CV applications, and then I suppose kind of the top applications would go forward to the video interview. I know I mentioned we have around 500 now.
Yeah.
We can't watch 500 interviews. I think I'd be sitting at the computer for the next 3 weeks, 24 hours a day, trying to get through them. So we will screen, and I suppose kind of those strong candidates will go through to video.
Okay, I understand. And then psychometric assessment. So when people get called to interview, then they also get asked to do a psychometric assessment. Is that right?
Yeah. And then the partners will potentially have a look at that assessment. So things like, numerical accuracy, things like that. So it's all kind of around, timing and just kind of the basics that would be needed. So word meaning, different things like that. I would recommend going on to Google and just typing in examples. You can do practice ones online. I'm not too sure of the providers now, but I know I would have done them previously when I was applying for graduate programs when I was coming out of college. So there is a lot of kind of example ones that you can have a go of and practice doing those on, just so that kind of you know how they work if you get sent one.
So say then, I just know somebody's going to ask me, say, right, they do great in their interview and their video interview is great. How much weight goes on the psychometric, verbal and numerical tests?
Not a huge amount of weight. Obviously we would have a look at it, but say if someone was to maybe score down on the psychometric testing, but their CV is they've got a 1-1 or they're expected a 1-1. They came across really well on the video interview. They did a very strong interview. They were well researched on BDO and they were passionate about why they want to join us. Potentially then it might be just discussed in the interview, you know, how did you find the assessment, and potentially someone just spent too long and overthought it, and maybe that brought their score down. So of course we'd take all that into account. We take everything into account as a whole package for making decisions.
Perfect. Karina, do I see your hand up there? Do you want to do you have a?
I think it's from the last time, but I actually
okay.
some questions. Nicola, you know, when working with students, they're really keen to know what kind of things would, for example, BDO expect from students to say in the question, why are you interested in this particular company? So are there any particular recommendations you can make for students to research? In some instances, it would be straightforward and clear, but I do think putting...
I think she's gone.
I got the gist of that question anyway. So I think, there is a few tips that I would give anyway to graduates who are applying. So basically what I would say is research. So go on to the different firms, the company, whoever you're interested in, have a look at the website, see if they've noted their values, a mission statement, see if they resonate with you. If they do, then obviously include that then in your actual application, you know, potentially for ourselves. In BDO, we have, you know, different values, one being passionate. So, you know, you might be able to describe an example of how you're passionate in your own education or personal life, and you can resonate with BDO's values in that sense. You feel as though potentially you might be a good fit for us. So different things like that, I think, would make you stand out, definitely.
Brilliant. I don't know if Karina's still there. And can I ask you, is
I
it just...
sorry.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, Karina.
Sorry, I was kicked out midway, but I managed to get back. So
You're
sorry
back.
about it.
You're okay, not to worry.
So kind of the last thing that you did mention, that these things would help students to get themselves noticed and really to stand out. And kind of just relating to skills. So how do you think, what kind of skills would help students to stand out in their application form?
Yeah, I think, you know, some people can be worried that potentially they don't have a huge amount of work experience or an internship or something like that. But you'd be surprised the amount of skills that you pick up, whether that's presentation skills in college, you know, even dealing with conflict or kind of difficult situations, if that's in teamwork in college. There's a huge amount of skills to be learned in college, and there's actually a huge amount of skills to be learned in part-time jobs as well. So if you have anyone that's working in retail, you know, dealing with customers, being customer facing, they're all the skills that we need in BDO. Even the commitment or the trust shown by an employer potentially to allow you to close or open a shop. Maybe you're working on the till, maybe you've been given the trust to handle the cash. That's all great, and that's all what we want to see, because, you know, the employer that you work with now has given you that trust. And that's exactly what we would be looking for. So I think you need to kind of think about your own experience, your own work experience, whether that's in college, a part-time job, even if you're a member of, you know, a different committee or a captain of a GAA team, you're going to have skills there the whole way that maybe you just haven't even realized. So I would say go back and have a look at your CV and pick out those different things that you haven't even realized are quite important before.
Brilliant. And now you've mentioned CVs. What is it? I suppose you're going to be looking probably through 700, 800 CVs.
Yeah.
What is it that attracts you to and encourages you to call a CV to an interview?
Yeah, I think main thing for us is it has to be on 2 pages. So, you know, if I come across a CV and it's 6 pages long, you know, you're going to lose my interest very fast, because it's going to be difficult to kind of keep the focus to get the whole way through. So keep it to 2 pages. The kind of, you know, word to white page ratio as well. If it's too busy, if there's words here, there and everywhere, make sure it's formatted correctly. So, you know, your personal details, if people want to put in a personal statement, they can. And then you're down to your education, your work experience, if you have any that's relevant or that you want to pop in, and then interests and hobbies and references at the end. So as long as it's neat and tidy, it's easily read, you know, formatted, the same font, and that's kind of what we'd be looking for. So I think one thing to do is to do up your CV and then pass it to someone who hasn't seen it before and ask them, does it read well? Can they understand, the different kind of education that you've gone through, your work experience clearly? Does it all make sense? And to proofread it as well, because you can read a document 10 times and you won't spot a typo. So different kind of small things like that, I would say. But yeah, definitely just in terms of neat and tidy CV, 2 pages and well formatted.
Brilliant. And do you look for a 2-1 average, or what are your thoughts on grades?
Yeah, so we would look for a 2-1 average, and that would be on the basis that, if you're to pursue the accountancy qualification or the tax qualification, we want to, be sure that you're going to be able to achieve that. And if you have kind of that 2-1 average in college, it shows that, you're quite academic and very capable. So that's probably why we would be looking for, the 2-1 or higher. Yeah.
Okay. And I know you mentioned culture there a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
What's life like in BDO? Will you tell the students a little bit about what it's like?
It's very social. Now I can't speak for COVID at the moment because I've been working from home since March. But even since working from home since March, we have done different kind of social events. There's been even charity events as well that we've done virtually. But we have a number of committees within BDO. So we have the SWAG committee, which would be Sports Wellbeing Activity Group, and they would run, and it's actually not HR, so it's actually people within the firm who are genuinely interested in kind of running SWAG and doing the different events. So usually we would have had, a summer barbecue, and they'd look after the Christmas party. We would have had a load of TGIF. So every kind of couple of Fridays there, especially throughout the summer, we would have kind of finished up that little bit earlier because we would have had early finishes during the summer months, and we would have went to the canteen and it would have been pizzas and drinks on a Friday evening. So there is kind of a lot of different social events going on. We did have quite a good event that I loved. That was summer last year. It was actually Bingo Loco. So we did a corporate event with Bingo Loco, and it was in the opium rooms after work. So it's a lot of kind of fun things going on, especially because we are kind of a smaller size firm. Everyone gets to know everyone. I know myself, I have friends in the tax team, friends in the audit team, corporate secretarial. So we all kind of mingle, we all get to know each other. It's very social. And it'd be rare that you'd walk past someone kind of, after 6 months in that you wouldn't know, and you kind of get to know. And then on the other side, then we have a D&I committee that I know I mentioned previously. So they run a lot of events throughout the year as well. And we have a corporate social responsibility committee as well. So they would run a lot of charity events throughout the year. So there's a lot going on, a lot to be involved in, especially if you're involved in different committees now in college and you're really enjoying it, and you'd hope to join an employer where they have committees too that you could get involved in. We would definitely have plenty of opportunities in BDO.
That sounds lovely. Karina, do you have any other questions there?
Hi, thank you so much. It really does sound like a really nice company to work in, like so many things going on, and hopefully the COVID will finish soon so all these activities can resume. Yeah, absolutely. Look, one of my students, Alex Bagan, I know she's really keen to get into risk, and she put a question there in the forum asking about the potential qualifications you need to do in the risk role. And also she was wondering whether you can recommend any additional qualifications that can help students in this business area.
So for risk, risk and advisory services, sometimes other people would refer to it as internal audit. So that's where you'd go out and go into a client and have a look at their, I suppose, how they function internally, and where they're open to potentially risk or fraud, and you'd propose improvements in terms of efficiencies, things like that. And that's where I mentioned, Caroline, we might this year have an opportunity for someone in the area of cybersecurity, because with looking at internal risks, we would do penetration testing, having a look at their different IT systems, and if they're open to potentially fraud or any risks outside external risks. But we would have, of course, the usual opportunities that we've always had as well, and that would be for people to join on a training contract and pursue the accountancy exams within the risk department. So again, we'd be open to all disciplines, kind of that business, accounting, finance background would be what would be well suited to it. I don't know if you have any kind of the risk and advisory modules now in college, but yeah, that would definitely be kind of the candidate that we would be looking for that area.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm really conscious of time. So I might just ask you, just I suppose, before you finish, just to say 2 or 3 things that you love about BDO, so the students quite.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. The things that I love anyway is firstly the access to partners and the access to, I suppose, senior management. I mean, when I was in the office, all the office doors for the partners are always open. You can just stroll in, and we tend to do that. So, you know, if you were to kind of join BDO, there definitely would be that opportunity there to be able to, you know, get in front of the partners, give your ideas, give your thoughts on the different things that are going on the teams, and to be able to kind of, you know, get involved at that high level straight away. So that's one of the things that I noticed anyway, was just the openness and how approachable everyone is. And then of course, kind of, I've mentioned how social it is as well, and just how close-knit everyone is. So again, my team, we would be quite close, and I'd have a lot of friends in other departments, and I haven't found that before in a previous employer where, you know, I've made friends outside of my own department, which has been great as well. So again, kind of that social aspect. And when we are in the office, it's a great location. Dublin, it's very close to Zara, is right there, and all the different things. So just in terms, I suppose, location, definitely the people, and I suppose the approachableness and the access to partners and kind of senior management from the get-go was great as well.
Oh, brilliant. Look, Nicola, thank you so much. That was so interesting. And thank you to everybody as well who joined us, and to Karina, thank you so much. So look, we really appreciate it, and thank you very, very much.
No problem at all. Thanks very much, Caroline. Thanks, Karina. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Recording.